Wisconsin Eye is proud to bring you Budget 2025, your source for live and on-demand coverage of the 2025 to 2027 Wisconsin state budget. As a nonpartisan, unfiltered platform, Wisconsin Eye gives you direct access to the decision-making process. Watch and engage at wisi.org. This program is made possible with support from Wisconsin Laborers District Council, Nicolay National Bank, North Central States Regional Council of Carpenters, Operating Engineers Local 139, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, and Wisconsin Hospital Association. Watch Wisconsin Eye on Spectrum Channels 995 and 363 and at wisi.org.
Good morning. I hope everybody can hear me. We are a new coalition ourselves. There are 4 passenger rail associations that you'll hear from today. There are also 2 unions that are represented here in the room that have joined to promote the governor's budget, to promote passenger rail expansion, and to increase the frequencies on the trains that now exist. So first I'm going to call on Chris Ott, who's the Deputy Director of High Speed Rail Alliance. After we have all of our presentations, we will be taking questions.
Thank you. As Larry said, my name is Chris Ott. I work as the Deputy Director of an organization called the High Speed Rail Alliance. And I'm here today actually with a group of people who are involved in our organization, including Johnny Kulbeck, the co-chair of our volunteer committee. We are a national organization, but we are actually all from Wisconsin and based here in Wisconsin. And we're excited to talk today about what more passenger trains could do for our state. Another Wisconsinite, the new Secretary of the U.S. Department of Transportation, Sean Duffy, has said some important things recently. He said a few weeks back that infrastructure investment should be nonpartisan, which of course makes complete sense. And new guidance from the U.S. DOT says that sound economic analysis should guide the agency in its work, and that projects that the U.S. DOT supports should promote increased access to jobs, healthcare facilities, recreational activities, or they should benefit families and communities by improving the quality of their lives. Trains do all of these things, and Wisconsin has success stories that show this. Here in our state, Amtrak has 8 stations in Sturtevant, the Milwaukee Airport, Milwaukee Downtown, Columbus, Portage, the Dells, Tomah, and La Crosse. And last year, trains carried more than 1 million passengers to and from those 8 stations in Wisconsin. The Amtrak Hiawatha, a train that runs several times a day between Milwaukee and Chicago, is one of the most successful train routes in the whole country. And the new Borealis train that started last May, running between Chicago and the Twin Cities, has already dramatically exceeded ridership expectations. It shows there's just a pent-up demand for train travel in our state. Trains like this give Wisconsin travelers, or travelers within Wisconsin, the option to save time and to save money, and travelers from other states who come here spend their money in Wisconsin. So it's a win-win. And people in Wisconsin benefit even when they're not on the train, because all those million people, a lot of them would probably be driving instead. So it reduces the congestion on our roads. Wisconsin should expand the benefits that trains bring us to the communities that don't have them. WisDOT, thanks to support from the federal government, is looking into service to cities including Green Bay, Madison, Eau Claire, and many other communities in between. We should just have a much broader network of passenger train service in Wisconsin than we do today, with fast, frequent, affordable service. That will give, this issue often gets framed incorrectly, I think, or, sort of in a confusing way as something, as trains benefiting only the big cities, and they do benefit cities, but there are benefits that are especially important to smaller communities too. It gives people, no matter where they live, greater access to opportunities, and just one example of that is that trains could give people who live in smaller communities easier or alternatives to the expensive connecting flights that you have to take to get to a hub airport, or driving several hours to get to one of those airports. We could make these benefits much more widespread in Wisconsin, and our state budget is the next key step. Wisconsin should prepare to move forward with the work that it has already undertaken, with or without federal support. Hopefully we'll be able to do that with continued federal investment. Wisconsin has done very well in a program called a federal program called the Corridor Identification and Development Program. But the advantages that trains bring to Wisconsin are so great that we should move forward no matter what. Governor Evers has proposed spending $5 million on passenger rail in fiscal year 2025 to 26, and then $10 million in the 26-27 fiscal year. Uncertainty in Washington right now means that we should probably view those numbers as the minimum, but compared to the roughly $2 billion a year that we spend on highways, we're spending hundreds of times more on highways than we do on trains. These amounts are modest and reasonable. The passenger trains in Wisconsin that we have right now, they all essentially run along one line that stretches from Chicago, or between Chicago and the Twin Cities. About half the population in Wisconsin lives within about 30 miles of that line, so that's good, but there's still the other half of the state. And the area that's left out includes important cities like Green Bay and many other communities, and that's just not fair. It doesn't make any sense. So let's invest and bring the benefits of fast, frequent, affordable trains to much greater, to everyone throughout Wisconsin. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Mark Quam of the West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition. Mark?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Quam. I'm from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. In Eau Claire, we have the West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition. The West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition started out as a nonprofit passenger rail advocacy organization, and a few years ago, we actually formed a 501c3. The Rail Coalition in Eau Claire is very supportive of passenger rail. We've actually been around since 1999. We felt that really our closeness to the Twin Cities, there are a fair amount of people that make frequent trips between Eau Claire and the Twin Cities, some of it business, some of it for leisure, other miscellaneous reasons. And I guess we really felt that we needed a stake as far as getting a voice to get passenger rail expanded from Eau Claire to the Twin Cities. So what we're doing in Eau Claire, we're kind of looking at an alternative approach. We work with Union Pacific Railroad, and we felt that the Eau Claire corridor potentially could operate with a third-party operator, not necessarily Amtrak. We're certainly open to Amtrak, but we felt that maybe bringing some competition into the field of passenger rail probably does make sense. So we were actually able to go forward and actually get efforts to move that project along, and we actually applied for a federal corridor ID grant, and the corridor ID grants that Wisconsin received, the Eau Claire corridor, which goes from Eau Claire to Menominee and over to the Twin Cities, we actually got a grant to go ahead and study that. We completed that scoping phase, and we're ready to move on into the next corridor phase. One thing that I should point out, in order to get federal corridor ID grants, you have to have a elected or a government entity to forward that along. So about a couple years ago, we formed the Chippewa-St. Croix Rail Commission, and that organization is the legal entity. Eau Claire County is the administrator for that project. And so we have Dunn County, St. Croix County, and Eau Claire County as the three primary government entities on that commission. The Rail Coalition, we work closely with the Eau Claire County and the other counties. And I guess we really feel that with the Rail Coalition, we're the advocacy voice that can really move the project forward. And so we do have a good working relationship with the cities, and also the Wisconsin Department of Transportation is working with the Chippewa St. Croix Rail Commission. One thing that we're just starting to do now is we're really starting to reach out and work with other rail organizations. So, for instance, WISARP and West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition, we're really teaming up. And I think to really make passenger rail effective in the Midwest, you've really got to have grassroots organizations working together. And so really today is really the first day that, we've had a chance to work collaboratively with other organizations across the state, and we think it's a really good move in the right direction. So anyways, this is a great opportunity to be here today, and we look forward to having more cross-working corporate communications with all our organizations. Thank you.
Now I will call on Nona Hill from All Aboard Wisconsin.
Thank you, Larry. Good morning. My name is Nona Hill. I'm the president of All Aboard Wisconsin, and I'm going to start by talking about someone who used to work in this building. The biggest advocate for passenger rail I ever met in my life was a woman by the name of Patricia Robbins. Pat Robbins founded ProRail, the organization in Madison that was trying to get a train to Madison, and this was years and years ago. I joined at least 30 years ago, and it's probably longer ago than that, but I'm too old to remember. But Pat was a mentor to me, and her job here in the Capitol, she worked on the Wisconsin Blue Book for most of her working life. She was a big-time Republican, but she loved trains. And I once asked her, I said, Pat, how did you get so interested in trains? Why do you support trains? And she looked off into the distance and said, I've done some of my best thinking on a train. And that has stuck with me my entire life. So to support passenger rail in this city, in this place, makes sense. We have a long history of trains in Madison. And to honor that history, we need to keep trains, we need to increase trains, and I'm very proud to talk about the Borealis, the newest train in Wisconsin, where ridership is exceeding its projections. By the end of January, I believe we had over 160,000 passengers since the train started in May. A wonderful response. My husband and I have ridden the train twice. On day 2, because we wanted to see if the ridership surge would continue, and then later to get to Chicago for an event. But we have to remember that Chicago and St. Paul may be the endpoints, but the majority of stops are in Wisconsin. This is a train that local Wisconsin people are using, and using at every single station. It's been a remarkable story, and one that we want to continue and increase and add more trains to that route, trains that could come to Madison, trains that could connect with trains that go to Green Bay and go to Eau Claire, and it's a story that needs to be supported, and it's why we support this budget. This small amount of money for rail is critical to our future. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to call on Ian Weiser, who is Legislative Liaison from Wisconsin Association of Railroad Passengers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. My name is Ian Weiser. I am the Legislative Coordinator for the Wisconsin Association of Railroad Passengers. I want to just not duplicate what any of these people have said. It's all true. There's no sense repeating it. To put a number on what several of you have said, In September, 40% of Borealis passengers boarded or alighted at a non-metro station. In other words, one of the intermediate stations, not Chicago, not Milwaukee, not the Twin Cities. 40%. This is transportation that is truly statewide. When the Wisconsin Association of Railroad Passengers, which, by the way, is a 501c3 charitable organization, and we welcome volunteers. We are 100% volunteer. When we go to an event, people ask us, they come up to us and say, when is the train coming to Madison? When is the train coming to Madison? When is the train coming to Madison? When is the train coming to Green Bay? I'm sorry, it's a 3-to-1 split. And here's the story. There is a program, the federal-state partnership by the Federal Railroad Administration to create a sensible, hard-nosed, fiscally responsible business plan and implementation plan. And that's, when we're talking about corridor ID, that's what the next step is. If you want to know more about it, we've got experts in the room who will happily answer all your questions and talk your ear off on it. That's really about it. It is popular. It is used by a lot of people. From the original 2015 Amtrak estimate of ridership, Borealis is currently 30% over that. I mean, that's a success story. And the proposed budget is a very reasonable amount to keep that success going, and it includes just enough seed money to keep this process going. It is not profligate, it is sensible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. One of the things that I'd like to point out, too, is where we are. I mean, Ian has prepared some charting for the big issues, the overall, and I won't get into too many details. But right now, we're waiting on all of the 4 expansion project lines that Ian mentioned in the corridor identification program to have their consultants that were hired by WISDOT with $500,000 grants for each one of those 4 efforts to file reports by June 30th. And this is critical. This will be telling the Federal Railroad Administration what these planners see as the possibilities in a summary form. It's not into the details yet, but that takes us into what we call step 1. Am I right, Ian? To go to step 2, if we get our filings done.